tell me about your new album, The Belly of the Beast.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this. A lot of people that have described it, I've been hearing them say that this album is a dark album, right? This is, and I was thinking, a dark album, now that's got to be somebody's perspective and their view of it, but I was thinking, now if a doctor, if you were smoking and a doctor says you need to quit smoking, right? You need to stop that.
Right.
And it saves your life. Right. If it saved your life and you stop, would you call that dark? So what I'm saying is, it's like you're shining a light on something. So why would you call that dark? Right. Right.
Especially if it's true. If it's
right.
true. In other words, these are dark days. I had a song on one of my solo albums on Slam called Dark Days. And these are dark days. I think some of the lyrics were like, we're living on the wrong side of a gun. No place to go, no place to run, that kind of thing. These are dark days. An artist is supposed to, we're into art. My wife is collecting. We have actual art pieces and things like that.
Yeah.
What you see behind me is the original painting of Belly of the Beast that a friend of mine did. Yeah, it's really awesome. It's big. And I knew that was the cover of the album about a year before the album was finished. And that's art. This kid, I call him a kid because he's a young guy. He's edgy. He's a brilliant tattoo artist, but he's an amazing artist. This is actually what he calls a how would you say, a self-portrait.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. He's really edgy. He's really edgy. So, but when I saw it, I said, this is what that is. This is about these days. And as I was going to say, art is supposed to reflect society. You're supposed to, an artist is supposed to mirror the world and interpret that, whether symbolically and or literally or however. And on top of that, art is supposed to disturb and awaken and shake you and make you look at things through another perspective, maybe that you haven't seen before. Whether you like it or not, you'll never forget it. And for me, Belly of the Beast was, I had to write the truth. I'm 71 years old, going on 72. I've done almost everything in my life that I need to do. The only place for me to go was more artistic, more depth personally, subjectively, objectively, so on and so forth. So if they call it a dark album, yes, because there's no like flowers and love and hearts. It's about the world. When you take a song like Belly of the Beast, it's pretty much lyrically telling you exactly the way things are in this tyrannical, authoritarian takeover that is happening.
Yeah.
And if people can't see that, then God knows what they see, because they ain't looking, they ain't listening. So I talk about this, and song like Rise Up is to get the people awakened and to fight back against this. Otherwise, humanity is going to be lost. And this is nothing new. This has happened centuries ago. It happened in Rome, and it happened again where authoritarians want to take over and enslave the populace. And here we are. Look at the WEF, the WHO. Look at all the wars, this, that. It's all about money and greed and power. And that's what I write about. And the personal aspects in this album, like Dark Night of the Soul, which is a phrase that St. John the Divine used, is when a man has a revelation in his life, when a man has an epiphany about what he, in other words, when you realize a moment, like a flash, and you realize everything you thought you knew is probably a lie. It's probably, you see right through the whole thing, you start to awaken. And you start, an awaken is an apocalypse. Apocalypse means an awakening, doesn't mean destruction. So you have this epiphany, awakening, and you start to realize, what's your purpose? Why are you alive? What are you doing with your life? Which wolf are you, the story of the two wolves? And my dad always used to say, there's two wolves inside a man. There's a good wolf and a bad wolf. So I said, well, how do I know who I am? He says, depends on which one you feed. which wolf do
That's
you
good.
feed, you know? Yeah, it is good.
That's true.
And I
Well,
never forgot that, rest his soul.
well,
So I'm just
uh,
telling the truth. And
yeah.
somebody had to say it, Gary, and I guess it was me, because everybody else is ignoring the subject. They're ignoring it.
Well, taken from the Bible, I mean, that, is something to think about, and how did you just suddenly want to write about, the Bible? And I know because this, you said the world, it's a dark place.
Yeah,
But
right
were
now.
there like events in your life that kind of led you to that direction?
Well, no, I grew up in a Catholic religion quite quickly. I went to a parochial school and I learned a lot of the falsehoods that happen in any man-made institution. Quite literally, I was very awakened when back in, wow, it had to be late 50s when a priest tried to molest me. Now it's common knowledge. Now, that doesn't make every priest or pastor or man of God bad. It's just awakened me to the fact that these people are human and there are certain things
Yeah.
going on. So I started to become a soul searcher. In fact, I have a song on my solo album, Rescue You, called Soul Searcher. And I started to wonder. I studied the Bible. I got a scholarship to Bergen Catholic, which is an all boys school for, let's say, gifted people. And I was taught by the Jesuits. And so we studied Latin and we studied, when we studied the Bible, we didn't just study what's on the page. We studied symbolic, literary, figurative form, everything. We understand between reality and myth and so on and so forth. So I was deeply into the prophecies and the revelations, especially book of Revelation, but of the Bible, because the Bible is not only a book of law in many ways, Deuteronomy, whatever, but it's a prophetic book. It is a story of history. It is also a story of the future that most people don't understand. It's all written there. They tell you what's going to happen. If you do this is going to happen, man. And it looks like what's happening is we're all demoralized. Absolutely. Look what's going on. Man don't know if he's a woman or a man. I mean, this is the stuff that, Bible starts saying, this is the end of the empire. This is when Rome falls. These are the signs that are showing us that you're on the decline. You're devolving, not evolving. Your consciousness is going down. Consciousness is God. We are supposed to get closer to God through our consciousness, through higher elevations of mind, because mind and spirit and soul. We're just spirits in a material body. This is a flesh suit. You know what I mean? I was always into that. Always trying to get closer to, call it God. A lot of people don't like it when you call it God. What you call it, whatever you want, man. Call it dog, spelled backwards, whatever you want, but just call it the divine, because there is divine and there is a soul. Because I feel it. I feel my soul.
Right.
I really
Amen.
do. Amen, brother. And I know, and everything is written there. And I did Buddhism and I meditate and I use my wife's a big. We've got the bowls, the healing bowls, and we try to develop ourselves in a way that is not earthly, because this is an illusion, in my opinion. It's a dream. The Mayans have said it. My wife's name is Maya, and Maya means the illusion of life in Hinduism, and it's just synchronicity that I have someone every day that reminds me of this illusion of life, and that the real world is within. Everything is within. God is within. He made us in our image. People think, what do you mean? This guy with a beard? No, man, he's not that. He means the creative fire, the spiritual force. Touch your spirituality. So this is how I got into all of that. And the belly of the beast is really taken from the Bible. The beast system is the system we live in, educational, all the institutions, you name it, educational, governmental, medicinal, you start going through all our institutions, and this is the beast. And when you're in the belly of it, in fact, there's a really great documentary on YouTube called Belly of the Beast by the Fall brothers, Faull, Fall brothers, and they will destroy anyone's known concept about what they think they see. They'll explain to you how Washington, D.C. is set up with pentagons and satanic undergrounds and all kinds of stuff. They get into this stuff. And
Right.
I see us right now. We are and the beast shall raise its ugly head. The beast is here. Satan, call him what you will, call it Lucifer, call him the demons. That negative energy is here. We're living.
I agree. I agree.
And they all got away from God, Gary, if you ask me. You know what I mean? It's like we lost.
That's what happens. When you stray away, it's kind of like straying away from the light. If you stray away from like a fireplace, you get colder, right? Or if you go away from a light and it gets dark, the darker it gets, the further you get away from it. And yeah, I totally agree.
Right.
But this album, though, did you, as you're getting everything together and you're compiling all your songs and everything, when you get ready to sing this album, how do you get into that mode of just, because I know your voice is really powerful in this, it does seem heavier than before. So how do you get into that mode when you're singing?
Well, I was blessed. It's a gift. I was blessed with a voice. I didn't know it. I'm originally a guitar player and still am. All I ever wanted to do was play guitar. But by accident, I started singing, and everybody told me I had a great voice. So I've just developed it. But I have a heavier side. I have a lighter side. I can sing the love songs, the pitched opera kind of clear tones, the pop songs. I can sing and I always wanted to do something a little heavier. In fact, when I was singing on the album, on the tracks, Peter Tackren, who was brilliant, by the way, from Pain, Hypocrisy, Lindemann, right? He said, look, Joe, we're making a melodic metal album. He goes, you can't go too far like this. You can't go too far that way. You still got to be Joe Lynn Turner. He says, in the same way with his writing, he says, I can't go into the hypocrisy stuff. That's too damn heavy. He says, so we're making a melodic metal album. Let's get back to center. And so I used a bit more of a gruffer voice, a little more rougher, sang a little bit lower, and just dug in a little bit more. But one guy asked Peter in an interview, so, how does Joe sound on this album? He goes, he sounds great. He says, well, what does he do? He says, he just adapts his voice. It's an adaptation. Wow. You adapt to the colors, and I learned that a long time ago, way back, where the voice the singing has to sound like the music.
Right.
If you're singing too rough for a very pretty song or something, it ain't gonna flow. It's not gonna work. You got to fit, you got to fit in. You got to get inside of it. So I just climbed inside of this, and I wanted to make this type of a rougher record, a darker, call it dark. Yeah. Look at the world. It's dark. That's it. I wanted to do this. And I think I surprised a lot of people because they're used to hearing me. They call me a pop singer, a love song singer.
Right.
And I think it's because people like to pigeonhole you. They really want to put you in a corner. And if you get out of that corner, God forbid, they don't know what they're going to shoot you because they don't understand who you are.
That's true.
And they don't like change. And they also don't like change. When I joined Deep Purple or something, all of a sudden, well, Deep Purple's had like 30 members. What's the big deal? Why pick on me? It's crazy, right? So they don't like
Right.
change, and you got to stay in your box. Hey, lighten up.
That's crazy. But people that
Yeah,
say
right.
that, I mean, look at their life. I mean, if they got it all together, the people that judge people, they need to
Oh,
fix their lives.
judge least ye be judged. That's the way I look at it.
This is true. Well,
I
how
don't
how
judge
long did it
people.
take you to how long did it take you to record this album and put it together?
Well, well, it took us a while because we started 4 years before. I met Peter, his brother Tommy Tagrin, in Sweden, above Stockholm, near Bordablana. That's where he lives and has his studio, The Abyss. And I went up there to do a show with my band for Tommy because he's a big fan. And I met Peter and Sabaton, who's also on this record, by the way. Sabaton's doing a lot of the heavy voices, background,
Oh yeah,
and which are great guys. And so I met Peter, and we started drinking some wine, talking, and we found we had a lot in common. And then it just happened. We said, "Gee, I wonder what it would be like to work together." So on my way back to the train to go down to Stockholm to take the flight out back to the States, he handed me a cassette, I think it was, or was it? Might have been a CD. I don't know. Anyway, it was a track. It was just a musical track. Well, and he said, write to that track, send it back with your vocal on it, and let's see where we're going. Well, that exact track happens to be "Don't Fear the Dark" on this record, which
wow,
I love that song,
wow,
and
that's
exactly
great.
the way I sang it. And I think I did 2 or 3 passes on the vocal once I figured out the melody and the lyrics, because I was going into Carl Jung about your shadow man, about the word because we both possess evil and good. And this is don't fear your evil side, like Carl Jung says in his philosophy of the shadow man. You should embrace it. And a lot of creativity can come out of that if you act upon it. That's another thing. If you act upon your own evil, that's a whole nother thing. In fact, I think
Yeah,
why we're here. We're given free will. We're given choice. And he just wants to see what we're going to do with it.
that's right.
And that's it. It's just simple as that. I think it was Mike Tyson who said when they asked him about being in prison, and he said it was the best 3 years of my life. And they said, "What? What are you kidding?" He goes, "I found peace. I found the Lord. I found peace." They said, "Yeah, but Mike, man, you made $30 million on that fight." And he says, "Money ain't nothing unless you have peace." He said, I think
That's
he
true.
said, God gives you everything just to see if you can handle it.
That's
And
that's
that's it.
that's good. That's
So
really good.
how I get back to that, meaning that he gave me and to see how I handle it. And believe me, I'm not all goody two shoes. I had my days of ego, my days of drinking and drugging and women. I did the rock star shit. No
Yeah,
lie. But you evolve, you grow up, hopefully, and you come out of that, and you start to realize what it's all really about. And it's really about love and sacrifice. Love is
that's true.
sacrifice. Love's to love someone else and to dedicate your life to my kids, my wife, my kids, my family. That's the most important thing for me, you know.
Awesome.
So,
Um, what was your ultimate hope whenever you release this album? It's out there. What was your ultimate hope uh, whenever you released it? I mean, what were your expectations, and
well,
what makes you happy?
I'll tell you, it was received with critical acclaim. I have to say that. I mean, whether it was classic rock and all these magazines, and I never put too much faith in that. I was always a people's choice kind of guy, but everybody
Yeah,
was giving it a 5, 9. Somebody gave it a 10. One guy gave it an 11, said it was a perfect album, this, that, the other thing, because he got it. So my only hope really was that people heard the message. I wanted to shock people with the reveal. I took the wig off, finally, and that's another story. We can get into that if you like. But I wanted to speak truth, and I wanted people to understand lyrically the message. It's music with a message. It's great rock and roll, but it's also a deep message in every song. I wrote my entire soul into this stuff, and I think there are some very profound moments in it. So my hope was messaging. Enjoy the music, but get the message. Listen, it's not about the beat or the guitar solos. Some people are just, that's all they're about. I start to hear their reviews and they're like, "Oh, that was a good solo." Or one guy will say, "Well, there was no soul. There was no soul guitar. It would be a better song if there was a guitar solo." And I'm like, is that how you think?
A lot of people do. They think like that. That's the way people do, though. It's got to have this or that, or it's not great.
So my hope was music, message in the music.
What do you think about, as you hear about this AI technology and things like that? Don't you think that kind of plays into the future and things like that?
It's part of what's happening, man. They're playing with God.
Yeah.
They're playing God. The DNA, the changing. I mean, you look at these robots like Chloe or Sophia and them, these beautiful looking robots, and I say, what, I look at my young kid and I go, wow, what's going to be for him? Like, what the heck's going to happen between now and when he gets old enough to realize this stuff? I think it's frightening because they're even playing God with the transhuman, never mind the transhumanism, but also the transgender. DNA is DNA. You're not going to change that. And there are people out there who actually think men can get pregnant, that they can menstruate. They actually,
it don't work
with their
like
whole
that.
being, they argue it. And I scratch my head and I say, how? And I got to tell you this one thing. I saw a short on this one kid. He said, I happen to be going through, the shorts videos. And he said, oh, I was like, I got the gender, I got the change, and, they cut my thing off and all this, and I'm a woman, but I don't have a uterus. I didn't know that. And I went, you mean you didn't know that before you went and got the snip? He didn't know that.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I don't understand the logic.
That's it. That's it. How could you not know that before you do something like this? So this part of it's all insane. And the transhumanism, transgenderism, all of this type of movements, I think it's mental illness. I mean, I'm sorry, because I understand. I have a lot of gay friends, and I'm not against gay people at all. But don't tell me you're a woman when you're a man. Oh, well, you were born in the wrong body. I can't tell you, back in 1981, I met a beautiful girl at a bar in Atlanta. And I knew she was a guy because the Adam's apple was not cut down. And I'm there fishing, as we say, reeling it in.
Yeah.
And she took me out to this limo that her and her friend had, and showed me the operation from Sweden. It wasn't bad. It's just an inversion. We are opposites. We are polar opposites. We are yin and yang and all that. But so I saw this stuff a long time ago happening, but not in mass, not as advocated by the mainstream press, etc., where they're trying to make you believe up is down, black is white, in is out, girl is boy. And these parents who think their kid knows what he wants to be at 3 years old, they're out of their mind. So
that is crazy. Yeah.
So coupled with with AI and transhumanism and changing, it's almost like they want to change their DNA. But then there's, I think, I forget the percentage and I don't want to misspeak, but it's a pretty high percentage of people who get these operations who regret it. And I've read a lot of
You know, you
the
don't have time to
regrets.
think about it, especially if you're a kid. You know, if you're a little kid and you have this operation, and then one day you're like, I made a mistake. It's too
Yeah.
late. You know, and it's sad. You know, it's real sad.
And it's very
Um,
heartbreaking for them. So I think AI is something that we got to reckon with. I think it's inevitable. I understand it, computers, all this, and I understand it as far as technology. But when it dehumanizes the human element, then we're in trouble. That's when we're in
Hopefully,
trouble.
we'll kind of, you know, stray away from that for a while at least. You know, and like you said, it's inevitable, but you know, hopefully we'll kind of go a better route on some things, and kind of our focus should be, you know, in the right place. You know,
Well, I mean, we should probably learn how to be good human beings first before we learn how
that
to
would
be
be a good
robots.
place to start. That get
Yeah.
rid of the hate. I know that.
Yeah,
Well,
man.
on a different route. Not that that wasn't
Uh,
interesting. Um, let's go back to the music. Now, way back in the day, you know, you took Ronnie James Dio. People know that guy. You took his
yeah.
place. Did people say, well, you know, you got some big shoes to fill? Did you? What'd you say when you knew that you had to do that?
I'll give you the exact quote. It was I think it was Kerrang magazine way back when. And they said, "Oh, you know, you got big shoes to fill." And I turned around arrogantly and said, "I'm going to make my own footprints.
Right.
I ain't filling Ron. I know
That's
Ronnie. I knew Ronnie from the East Coast, from he was Cortland, New York, and I'm down from Jersey and New York, and we played Connecticut. There's the circuit. Okay, I remember when he
right.
was in Elf. I remember Lou Graham when he's in Black Sheep. You know, this is East Coast stuff. So I just said, well, I'm gonna make my own footprints. You know, I'm gonna be me. I'm gonna sing like me. I'm gonna write like me. I'm gonna do what I do. Okay. Actually, I was doing also what I was hired to do. Blackmore wanted a more commercial aspect to his music. He wanted to chart. He wanted to get on Billboard. He wanted to get in the top 10. He was tired of being underground, you know, this over here. This is what he wanted. His favorite band, one of them anyway, is ABBA. You know, wow. You know, the metal
Right.
god, ABBA. And
Yeah. Right.
and when we were writing our songs, we kept the rock, the hard rock integrity of the music, but at the same time, we came up with our Stone Colds and Street of Dreams and Can't Let You Go and things that made the popular made hit the popular market and got us not only chart recognition, but we sold more records and we played bigger concerts and the band elevated.
Yeah.
And that was the idea behind it all. So when I used to take crap about being, oh, these are pop singer, I'm doing my job. This is what we wanted to do. That's what I said, look, this is my job. I'll take the job. You tell me one guy who, if they get offered that gig, that wouldn't take it. Now, whether they could do it or not, I don't know if they have the abilities, but you tell me somebody who ain't going to take that gig. I'll take the
That's
gig,
true.
you
That's
know,
true. Um,
and
yeah.
like I said, we were genuine integrity.
And I know you had some great times in those days
Yeah.
with Rainbow. Uh, is there a memory that stands out that you think about that you really, you know,
Well, it's
that you
quite a
go
few.
to every time you think about Rainbow? Do you think of that one memory that really stands out? What is that?
Well, it's Rambo's kind of like a huge color wheel for me. You know, it encompasses everything. But you know, there's one. It's probably my favorite concert because I used to go to Madison Square Garden in New York City when I was a kid and see all the bands. Um, and my dream, of course, every kid's dream. And when we sold it out with the Scorpions support opening, and all my family, all my friends were there. It's like I had arrived. You know, it wasn't necessarily the biggest concert we played, and it wasn't necessarily the best concert we ever played, although it was a good one. but it was the point that I actually made it, personally, to Madison Square Garden. Local boy makes good. That was quite, just a thrill. So, and the good times with Rainbow, there's so many. I can't say we had any bad times. There were fights, there were disagreements, but it's like any marriage. Because being in a
Yeah.
band is like a marriage, it's like you're living with each other 24/7. And then you got to get into this creative stuff, and it can get really feisty. Well, I like this, well, I like that, and blah, blah, blah. And I hate that, and you got to smooth it all out. But 99% of the time, it was about the music. And I think we accomplished that. You listen to any one of at least my Rainbow albums, you may not like them, but you can't deny them.
Hey,
they're
they're
good.
all awesome. They're all good.
Thank you.
Well, after Rainbow, I mean, when that came to an end, were you kind of shocked, or did you know what was kind of going?
I knew exactly what was going on because I knew all about it. I knew when they were going back to Purple. I knew I had to deal with Elektra Records to do a solo deal. I was going to be the new heartthrob, this and that, MTV, blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, it was funny as hell. I had Roy Thomas Baker produce my album,
Oh, wow.
RTB, and the projects he's done. Journey,
Yes.
Foreigner,
Journey,
Cars,
Queen.
And
Yes.
I mean, and to this day, that album Rescue You still sounds amazing because of him. Okay. So but I knew what was going on. I was inside. A lot of people think, oh, well, they kicked Joe out or they fired him. No, 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 no. I knew the inside. The same with Purple. I knew what was happening with Purple. I was an interim singer. I was just happy to do an album with those guys. They were heroes of mine. I always admired Deep Purple, and to get to do a great record like Slaves and Masters, which still I think is a great record. I think it was a little out of its time, and everybody called it Deep Rainbow because there was 3 members of Rainbow, 4 members of Purple. Well, what else do you expect? And no, I'm not Gillan. But Gillan was a replacement singer too.
Right.
So was I,
Right.
So, I don't, I don't understand a lot of the controversy over those kind of things, or where they make up stories that people make up stories that, oh, well, he got the axe, and he's all crying in his beer about it. I am not. I don't have any sour grapes about anything. I knew exactly what was happening when it was happening.
So that's that makes a story sound better when when you it's this big deal. He was canned and he got mad and tore up the place, and then he said blah blah blah. Rather than you going, okay, I'm out. See you later, and you don't say, and that's it. It's like what?
Yeah, I know. They love it. They love the dirt, the dirt set everybody fighting against each other, saying stuff. And I'm like, I hate the press, like the yellow press that does that, because they're not, back in the day, in the 60s, 70s, when I was growing up, we used to have absolute verbatim, and we used to talk about the music and the quality. There was really no gossip about people. Yeah, if you come staggering out of a bar one night, they write about it, but they didn't go after it, maybe is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I think after Rainbow, no, when you were doing your solo stuff, I know you also sang background vocals. A lot of those,
boy.
right? How did you end up doing all those? You got like a million.
Oh, I was like the hot thing at one point, Michael Bolton actually turned me on to jingles, believe it or not, jingles. and we were at the China Club one night, I'll never forget. And I'll come pulling in on I had a Sportster, an 880 Sportster, and I come pulling in, and I'm, dressed in leathers, and everybody's there. Bruce Willis, Bon Jovi, you name a lot of famous people from New York. I think Jagger was there. It was a huge party for the China Club. China Club was a very famous spot in New York. So it was celebrity ridden. And Bolton turns around, he says, I'll tell you, you got to do these jingles. And I said, because he was just breaking with Doc of the Bay. He was just breaking. And I said, we're having a drink. And I go, I don't want to do no jingle. What are you talking about, jingles? He goes, no, you don't understand. And I said, no, what do you mean? He says, you see that girl over there, that lady? I said, yeah, beautiful woman, very Elizabeth Taylor looking. Never forget her. Susan Hamilton. She's the jingle queen. She owns like 2 or 3 jingle houses. LA, Chicago, New York. I said, so what's the big deal? He goes, Joe, I'm telling you, you sing 10 minutes, you make more money than God. I said, all right. He says, I got to introduce you. So we go over to Susan, introduces me. She says, look, come down tomorrow night. We're doing a Miller Lite commercial. I want to see what you got. So I go down. Now, all the top studio cats are there. Will Lee and Cirisano and John Chopin on guitar, all these heavy cats, studio cats. Steve Gadd, killer players. So it was like it's a 30-second and a 60-second spot. You sing the lyrics 2 spots. And I, what they call won the spot. As soon as they started running it, you get a $60,000 check. You get an $80,000 check because it's running on it's running on television, and it's running on all of the radio everywhere. And my SAG, which is Screen Actors Guild, and my unions and all this stuff. It's an amazing pension today because, and I have to thank Bolton for that, because then I became this king of jingles. And with that, the reputation grew and people started to want me to sing background because I had this voice, and the voice could do many different styles. I mean, I was doing, if I was to play you a jingle reel, you'd say, that's you. And that one's you.
I'd like to hear. That'd be awesome. I'd like to hear.
Yeah, you can change I was doing animation, cartoon, whatever it needed, right?
Oh, wow.
So these people would phone me up, and pretty soon I was singing with, some of the best stuff was Billy Joel with Mick Jones from Foreigner producing on Stormfront, singing with Cher, singing with Bonnie Tyler, singing with Daryl Hall from Hall & Oates, singing with Jimmy Barnes, Michael Bolton, of course, 2 records I did with him. I could go on and on and on. I started to become this hot singer, and they'd fly me to LA, fly me to Chicago, anywhere I needed to be. It was just phenomenal. It was a great period of my life.
Yeah.
So plus you make the money, and
that helps too, right?
Puts kids through college, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, you sang on Don Johnson's song, that Heartbeat song, right?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Don.
And with Bill Champlin and his wife, right? Weren't they on that?
Yeah, Billy. Yeah, you bet. Billy up in
that's
Marin
cool to me. I love it. I love to see who sang on this, and and it's kind of like that's why I like the old albums and the linear notes and things like that, as opposed to downloads, because you can't see that you sang on this song back in 1985. You can't see that on a download, but you can see it on an inside note.
Nobody does that anymore. I am exactly the same way. Who produced it, where it was recorded, what was the dates, who played it, every single thing I needed to know. And now it's just, well, I like this one song, they take it off Spotify or whatever, and that's it. They have no idea of the history, no idea of anything.
You don't have anything in your hand. It's in the air. There's no CD to hold that you can put on a shelf and pick up.
CD albums, man. I used to get those LPs, and we used to get those double LPs that open up, and we used to roll our weed on it, smoking weed. Come on.
That's
Oh,
cool.
it's a lost art, man,
Well,
because it's so important to know those kind of things.
well, it's like your new album with the cover. I mean, if you don't have a CD or an album, it kind of takes away from that big cover, the mystery of, how cool it looks. It's like used to, you'd buy an album because of the cover, you're
That's
like, whoa,
right.
that looks cool. And then you'd enjoy the
Right.
album, So now there, it's like there's no, but back in the day when you were recording with Rainbow, and I think y'all put out like 3 albums in 3 years or something like that.
Yeah.
People don't do that anymore for sure, right? Uh,
No.
I'm sure there was a lot of work putting, all the energy into 3 albums. Now it's
Yeah.
like a 8 year gap or something, right? For that.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, there are contractual obligations where, they want you to come up with, like, say, in a year and a half or even a year. And I'll
Yeah.
be honest with you, I told them, I said, look, I don't write. When I write something, I put everything into it. I said, if I don't have it in a year's time or a year and a half's time, it ain't going out. That's just it. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you can live with that, fine. Because I think it was Don Henley who said it. He said, you got about, say you're 25 years old for your first album, maybe a little older, whatever, maybe even younger. But he says, you got 25 years for your first album. He says, after that, you got to put an album out every year. He says, with the Eagles, and I relate to this. He said, we used to go out and make shit happen. We used to just
Yeah.
get in trouble, so we would be inspired to write Hotel California about fast lane and drugs on the cocaine on the highway, left in the fast lane and stuff. He said we had to
Right.
make things happen, and he's right. I could relate to that so well. Because if you were just coasting along on a very calm sea, there was nothing to write about. So you'd go out
That's
and
true.
get in trouble. So because of that, yeah, it's
Just don't
true.
go too far. You don't want to hear
Well,
your album in jail.
well, that's happened before too.
Yeah, that's a great album. Slam. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, hey, whenever you got the gig with Deep Purple, now you had Foreigner wanting you to be the lead singer and Bad Company. How'd you decide?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I don't get those options. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know why,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying,
It was a
why? Yeah. What do you do? Do you go, you flip a coin? How did you decide?
it was a hell of a time, man. Hell of a time. I auditioned for Foreigner and stuff, and I had a problem with the manager, and then Lou heard about it and this and that. And I guess they were patching stuff up because of the direction that Mick wanted to go, and Lou didn't want to go in that direction. And finally, they came to something amenable and worked it out. So I got a call from Rick Wills, the bass player, and just said, look, it didn't work out with Foreigner. He goes, but I got another line. And I said, what do you mean? He says, Bad Coast looking for a singer. And Paul Rogers is like one of my, if not my favorite singer. I think the man's got range and soul and emotion.
Yes.
He's got it all. So I was like, dude, I'm in. I can cut that bluesy stuff. I turned on my bluesy versions. That's what I mean. I grew up on the blues. Grew up on R&B, black music. So I got all that. And before I had the call, before I made the call, I got a call from Deep Purple. And I was like, what? And I felt real comfortable with Richie and Roger. And plus Purple was, well, come on, I mean, they're legendary band.
Big.
So I said, how can I pass this up? I said, look, I'll just do the Purple thing, come hell or high water. And I enjoyed every bit of it. And I believe that we made a really fantastic album. I think it was out of time and space. And I think a lot of the Purple fans weren't sure why it sounded the way it did, but it was because Richie, once again, wanted to do something more commercial. He took Purple in this direction, and it wasn't just because I was in the band, but he knew that I could cover that and write. That's the reason why I got in Rainbow in the first place, because I could write songs. I've written songs for a lot of other people that people don't even know about unless you look on the record cover.
See,
You know what I mean?
there you go.
See?
You got to have it.
Yeah. And publishing, my friend, is a very nice, it's the gift that keeps on giving. You know, you keep getting
Yeah.
residuals, and, you know. So writing to me, I think is extremely important for any artist. Should, first of all, to be an artist, you have to write your own songs. Otherwise, you're just you're a singer or you're a guitar player or whatever, which is fine. But to be an artist, you got to do it all. You kind of got
That's
to,
true.
you got to be the source, you know.
Or do you still write songs for other people? Is that something have you
I
done
do.
that?
Yeah, I've slowed down on pushing them, meaning as far as my publishing company, things like that. But I've got about maybe 12 songs in a bucket, as we say, that are they're supposed to go out two to this one, two to this one. And some of them are up and coming bands. One or two of them are notable, but maybe they'll take it, maybe they won't. You never know, right? So,
Well,
you know,
what do you think about
that
the
kind of thing.
future? Talking about the up and coming bands, are there any bands that you see that have hope and promise, kind of like the old school bands like you were in, that you could say, hey, they might actually do good? Are there any bands out there that you really appreciate?
You know, there are, but not as many as I'd like. But I mean, like guys like Rival Sons, I love, you know, killer singer, great band. And I always forget, you know, if I was to name a metal band or something, you know, I mean, look, you start to turn around, all of a sudden Extreme is back. And you start to look
Yeah.
at John Corabi's back with Dead Daisies. And
Yeah.
there's a reunion here, you know, and they want Dokken back. And it's like everything old is new now. It's this big
You're right.
circle, and you know, and everything sort of cyclical. It happens cyclically, and it's amazing to me because people are still looking for really good music. And I think a lot of the newer bands have sold out to the corporations where they want to look like that band, the same, you know, they want to look
Yeah.
alike, they want to sound alike because that's what works. But the secret really is to be yourself so that, you know, identifiable. I mean, not blowing my own horn, but people say when they hear my voice, they know it's me. That's the way it's got to
Yeah.
be. You know,
That's a good
that's
thing.
Joel Turner right there. Yeah, that's him.
Yeah.
Like it or hate it, you know, it's me.
That's true. That's good. Um, well, looking back on your career though, is there anything that you look back on and you wish you'd have done differently, and or you say, I shouldn't have done that, I should have done this?
Well, I guess it's like the Sinatra song. Regrets, I've had a few, but too few to mention.
Yeah.
You know, I've done some things, said some things in the heat of anger or whatever, you know, that I look back and say, well, that was kind of foolish and immature, you know, and that was kind of arrogant or stupid, but that's how you learn. But as far as doing what I did, I know for a fact I could have, for a fact, if I was to sell out more with the corporations, like when Electra signed me, and if I sucked up to the president and did his bidding, it's the producer's couch, the corporate couch.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you hear about it all the time. I'd be probably bigger, you know, or whatever. Would I be happy and at peace and live my life the way my father taught me to be my own man? No, I wouldn't be, because I'd have to sacrifice that part of my soul, that part of my being. So, but I know that there is a game that you play. And I didn't like to play the game. And I told a lot of people to go to hell. And they didn't like that. And they called me a diva and they called me difficult to work with. And I got snafu'd because of it. And that's okay. I don't even regret that, because I stood up for what I believed. And I still do. And I'm still doing okay. You know, I'm very
Hey,
comfortable.
not
I'm
doing
very
too shabby.
happy. Yeah, right. So, I'm not one of these people that need to constantly being reinforced with fame, fortune, and ego, whatever that is. I'm way past that. Sure, everybody's got it, but it's not important. What I want to do is just keep making good music as long as I can. And if I can't sing or write or perform anymore, then I'm not going to do it. And there's a lot of
Yeah.
guys out there that can't, but they're still doing it, and they look foolish.
Yeah.
They look foolish.
I agree with
And
that.
I'm not going to be using tracks.
I wonder who you're talking about. No, just kidding.
I don't understand. I'm not.
Well,
I'm not kidding.
is there going to be another album like this, like the one you just did? Are you going to do like a follow-up kind of a version? Since you're on a roll with that, it's awesome album,
Yeah.
by the way. Uh,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
but are you going
Let's
to
see
kind of go in that direction?
let's see where the world goes. I'm in the world, but not of it. I'm a messenger. I'm here to observe and to awaken. Really, this is my mission now. You might say, and people say, well, geez, it's so different, what you're doing. And no, it's not. Because if you go back into my solo stuff with like a record like Slam, there were some, just because the production wasn't as heavy and I didn't sing as metal, the subject matter was very, very similar to this. In fact, there's a few songs not only from Slam, but Holy Man and a couple of other albums, Usual Suspects, that I can cherry pick, beef up on stage, and it would fit right in with this set. About the same subject matter, Dark Days, for example, we discussed things like that, or Holy Man, for that matter. Holy Man is all about the false prophets and the TV evangelicals and the fakery and the phoniness and the frauds.
Yeah.
It's all today. It's still happening.
Right.
I mean,
That's
to
true.
me, it's a fake world. Like on this record, I wrote Fallen World, and it's kind of like a run-on rhyme. But I think if you really just stop and read the lyrics, you'll see everything you possibly can see and know it's out there. It's in that song, Fallen World, because I believe this is a fallen world at this point. We are really just keep spinning around, going down. We haven't learned a damn thing. History has taught us nothing. Nothing.
Right. I agree.
I
totally agree. It's sad.
So when you ask what kind of album it will be, depends. It depends on what I'm seeing, what I'm living with, what I'm feeling. I've got AOR songs that nobody's ever heard that are like killer songs. I could make an AOR album like that, In fact, my wife keeps saying, put it out, just put it out. And I go, well, I'm on this path right now, but let me follow this path, and then I can always put it out. It's not going to go anywhere. I mean, because these are great songs. So we'll see. But
maybe you can do like a compilation.
Yeah, well, that too. So I don't know where it's going to go right now. I'm interested in living life, and I couldn't even get out much on tour. I'm going to be this fall. I start working a bit heavier throughout Europe, but I couldn't do much this summer because the album came out October 28th. Let's say November 1st.
Yeah.
By then, you are booked. You understand?
Yeah.
All bands book 6-7 months in advance, and because of the pandemic, the market was absolutely saturated with too many bands, not enough venues, and the economy is in the toilet. So the promoters can hardly afford to put on the lights, get security, all of that, and then the band fees come down because so many bands. Well, I can just as well get this band to fill in instead of this band. So why pay him more? So it's really a very strange time. I think you would say that the music business is in flux. It's not really settled yet. So I plan on doing what I have already booked for this fall through September and October. And then I'm just going to chill out through Christmas, and we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll just do another record, or maybe, in January. I really want to go out and do Belly of the Beast, though. I want to go out and do a production on Belly of the Beast. And I'm already working with a orchestra arranger and conductor who is who's writing interim pieces for this album, so we can put it together as like this one big, not a concept, but so that it ties together,
Yeah.
one song flows into another. So that should be interesting.
Yeah.
If we can put that together.
That'd be nice. Awesome.
Yeah, so knock wood, cross your fingers. We'll see.
Hey, that sounds like a plan. Well, hopefully you'll be out there. Maybe I'll get to see you out there somewhere and
yeah, I hope
meet up with
so.
you.
I hope so. Yeah, definitely. I certainly hope so. I mean, I love playing live, and I think this album would be just amazing live, because it's just gotten a lot of meat. It's got it's got the stuff, very strong. So,
No, I agree.
Yeah. I'm glad you like the album, by the way. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's hard to stop listening. You listen to it, you're like, I gotta keep listening to this album. You can't stop. I mean, it's really, the songs are strong and the lyrics are great. I mean, just well put together.
It's like 55 minutes goes by like that or something. It just really does.
That's when it's good. If it's dragging, if you listen to an album and it's like you keep skipping and you're like, I wanted this to be over, but it wasn't like that. This was like, oh man. And you couldn't wait till the next song. You were enjoying it. You were savoring the moment, and those albums are the best kind,
Well, I appreciate that. Appreciate it, brother. That's the
well,
way I feel about
I
it,
won't
too.
keep you. I won't keep you.
Well,
I appreciate you
again,
talking to me.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the delay in this, because, family matters and stuff happens, and what are you going to do? And I said, oh, I hope I can get to Gary, and put him off a little bit, because so I could, let them all start, that they're on the party there over there. And I didn't realize that that Maya had wrote you and scheduled it for this time today, 3 o'clock, my time.
It's all good.
And I was like, these people are coming over, so
it's
now
all
we're
good.
cool.
I just hope this turns out, I don't want it to be Doogie Part 2.
Look, man, if we have to talk again, we talk again. That's all right. Whatever.
Hey, might have to, but hey, I wouldn't mind it a bit, man. But I appreciate you, and I'm praying for you. I'm glad you're doing okay. You doing okay health wise? Everything good?
Yeah. By the way, I'm doing fine health wise. I mean, again, that song "Dark Night of the Soul," my heart attack I had, it opens up a whole nother world when you're laying on that table, not knowing if you're going to live and die. And all of a sudden you start to ask yourself, what, why, when, where, and how, and it changes a man. It changes you. So
I'm sure it does.
These are all the lessons, and I made a pact and said, look, if you allow me to survive this, I'm going to get on the right path. I swear to it. And that path has been just joyous. It's been amazing. My faith, and it really, people don't understand it unless they experience it.
That's awesome.
It really works. It really works, brother. It works. So
that's awesome, man. That's a great testimony, and I'm glad you're doing okay. But I'll be rooting for you and all that you do, and I'll be here, just smiling and looking forward to the future from you.
Anytime, Gary. Just reach out and we'll hook up again.
That'll work, man. Well, you have a good day now. I appreciate you so much.
God bless you and your family, and keep the faith. Good with the music, man. Keep the faith.
Thanks, man. God bless you.
We'll see you on the flip later, Gary. Thanks. Have a great day. Ciao.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.